News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moskow.
Karen, the war in the Middle East is now into a sixth day. Israel is carrying out new waves of attacks on Tehran's military and intelligence assets, along with strikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. President Trump says the U.S. is doing very well.
Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15. And we're going to continue to do well. We have the greatest military in the world by far.
President Trump spoke from the White House, and we get more from Bloomberg Middle East anchor Jumana Bersetchi in Dubai.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt went on to say that they're moving to have complete dominance of the skies. And earlier on, I actually conducted an interview with one of the advisors to the Israeli Prime Minister, and he said that from their perspective, both Israeli and U.S. operations have already surpassed in the first 5 days of this war what they thought they could achieve. This is his words, obviously. That's how he's describing it. The U.S. also saying, the Central Command, that they've hit over 2,000 targets in Iran over the first 5 days of the operations.
Bloomberg's Jumana Bersetchi reports Iran is promising to ramp up retaliatory attacks. About a dozen nations are involved, with Tehran striking U.S. bases and embassies across the Middle East. Turkey came under fire as well yesterday, the first time a NATO member's been targeted. And a U.S. submarine sank an Iranian warship in international waters off Sri Lanka in the first such attack since World War II. Iran is vowing to avenge that strike.
Well, on Capitol Hill, Nathan, the Senate has cleared the way for President Trump to keep the war going. A Democratic-led resolution to stop further strikes was blocked by a vote of 47 to 53. Republican Lindsey Graham says the war is justified.
President Trump, after a sincere effort to bring this conflict to a peaceful conclusion, concluded that to continue to allow this regime to move forward would put America at unacceptable risk. And he was right.
But Democrat Chris Murphy says Americans are already paying a cost.
Oil prices up by 9%. Gasoline prices, their largest one-day increase in 20 years. Natural gas prices up 45%. The region is in chaos. American consumers are paying the price. And for what? We still don't even know the reason for this war.
Senators Chris Murphy and Lindsey Graham spoke on the Senate floor ahead of the vote. The House plans to vote on a war powers resolution today. Speaker Mike Johnson says he's confident it will fail there as well. A CNN poll taken the weekend the war began found 59% of Americans disapprove the strikes on Iran.
And Karen, former Secretary of State Antony Blinken says real change in Iran will require a sustained military focus that could wear down U.S. weapons stockpiles and leave it vulnerable to attacks from other adversaries. Blinken was the top diplomat in the Joe Biden administration. He's questioning whether this White House is ready for the consequences of a drawn-out war. Blinken spoke with Bloomberg's David Gura on the latest edition of the Bloomberg Big Take podcast.
What I'm worried about, one of the things I'm worried about, and this gets to the second and third order consequences, is we so deplete our arsenal, and it takes a long time to rebuild it, that puts us in a disadvantageous position when it comes to, say, a China or a Russia. All of those things need to be factored in. And again, it's one of the reasons why if you're going to undertake something like this, you've got to make sure that you've factored all of that in.
And you can catch David Gura's full conversation with former Secretary of State Blinken on The Big Take wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, Nathan, we are seeing oil on the rise once again this morning. West Texas Intermediate is up 2.2% at $76.24 a barrel. Brent is up 1.7% at $82.76. Bloomberg Middle East News Director Will Kennedy believes President Trump is closely monitoring the energy market.
I do think the oil price is an important calculation for him, and although the price has been significant, it's worth bearing in mind that it's not out of control, that prices in the low 80s are not beyond where they've been in recent years. Prices went well above $100 at the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. So it may be that in Washington's calculation that these oil prices are manageable.
Bloomberg's Will Kennedy on Iranian television this morning. A military official claimed Iran has not closed the Strait of Hormuz.
The war continues to have a major impact on the airline industry, Karen. The number of canceled flights to Middle East hubs has now surpassed 23,000, and thousands of passengers are stranded in the Gulf region, with more than half of all scheduled flights to or from the Middle East canceled. We get the latest from Bloomberg Aviation and Transport reporter Danny Lee.
priority has really been given to people to get out of the region, and we have seen over the recent days the likes of Emirates and Etihad Airlines resuming some flights to get people out, but clearly for now there's a pretty broad disruption overall.
It's Bloomberg's Danny Lee, and the State Department says 17,500 Americans have safely fled the region. It's urging others to register via its website.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moskow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.